The Phases of the Moon by William Butler Yeats. An old man cocked his ear upon a bridge. He and his friend, their faces to the south, had trod the uneven road. Their boots were soiled, their Connemara cloth worn out of shape. They had kept a steady pace as though their beds, despite a dwindling and late-risen moon, were distant. An old man cocked his ear. Aherne, what made that sound? Robartes A rat or water-hen splashed, or an otter slid into the stream. We are on the bridge. That shadow is the tower, and the light proves that he is reading still. He has found, after the manner of his kind, mere images. Chosen this place to live in because, it may be, of the candle light from the far tower where Milton's platonist sat late, or Shelley's visionary prince. The lonely light that Samuel Palmer engraved, an image of mysterious wisdom won by toil. And now he seeks in book or manuscript what he shall never find. Aherne, why should not you who know it all ring at his door, and speak just truth enough to show that his whole life will scarcely find for him a broken crust of all those truths that are your daily bread, and when you have spoken, take the roads again? Robartes, he wrote of me in that extravagant style he had learnt from Pater, and around his tale said I was dead, and dead I chose to be. Aherne, sing me the changes of the moon once more. True song, though speech, mine author sung at me. Robartes 20 and 8. The phases of the moon, the full and the moon's dark and all the crescents, 20 and 8, and yet but 6 and 20 the cradles that a man must needs be rocked in. For there's no human life at the full or the dark. From the first crescent to the half, the dream but summons to adventure, and the man is always happy like a bird or a beast. But while the moon is rounding towards the full, he follows whatever whim's most difficult among whims. Not impossible, and though scarred as with the cat o' nine tails of the mind, his body molded from within his body grows comelier. 11 pass, and then Aherne takes Achilles by the hair, Hector is in the dust, Nietzsche is born, because the hero's crescent is the 12th. And yet, twice born, twice buried, grow he must, before the full moon, helpless as a worm. The 13th moon but sets the soul at war in its own being, and when that war's begun there is no muscle in the arm. And after, under the frenzy of the 14th moon, the soul begins to tremble into stillness, to die into the labyrinth of itself. Aherne, sing out the song. Sing to the end, and sing the strange reward of all that discipline. Robartes, all thought becomes an image, and the soul becomes a body. That body and that soul too perfect at the full to lie in a cradle, too lonely for the traffic of the world. Body and soul cast out and cast away beyond the visible world. Aherne, all dreams of the soul end in a beautiful man's or woman's body. Robartes, have you not always known it? Aherne, the song will have it that those that we have loved got their long fingers from death and wounds, or on Sinai's top, or from some bloody whip in their own hands. They ran from cradle to cradle till at last their beauty dropped out of the loneliness of body and soul. Robartes, the lover's heart knows that. Aherne, it must be that the terror in their eyes is memory or foreknowledge of the hour when all is fed with light and heaven is bare. Robartes, when the moon's full, those creatures of the full are met on the waste hills by country men who shudder and hurry by, body and soul estranged amid the strangeness of themselves, caught up in contemplation, the mind's eye fixed upon images that once were thought, for separate, perfect, and immovable images can break the solitude of lovely, satisfied, indifferent eyes. And thereupon with aged, high-pitched voice Aherne laughed, thinking of the man within, his sleepless candle and laborious pen. Robartes, and after that the crumbling of the moon. The soul, remembering its loneliness, shudders in many cradles. All is changed, it would be the world's servant, and as it serves, choosing whatever tasks most difficult among tasks not impossible, it takes upon the body and upon the soul the coarseness of the drudge. Aherne, before the full it sought itself and afterwards the world. Robartes, because you are forgotten, half out of life, and never wrote a book your thought is clear. Reformer, merchant, statesman, learned man, dutiful husband, honest wife by turn, cradle upon cradle, and all in flight and all deformed, because there is no deformity but saves us from a dream. Aherne, and what of those that the last servile crescent has set free? Robartes, because all dark, like those that are all light, they are cast beyond the verge, and in a cloud, crying to one another like the bats, and having no desire they cannot tell what's good or bad, or what it is to triumph at the perfection of one's own obedience, and yet they speak what's blown into the mind. Deformed beyond deformity, unformed, insipid as the dough before it is baked, they change their bodies at a word. Aherne, and then? Robartes, when all the dough has been so kneaded up that it can take what form cooked nature fancy, the first thin crescent is wheeled round once more. Aherne, but the escape. The song's not finished yet. Robartes, hunchback and saint and fool are the last crescents. The burning bow that once could shoot an arrow out of the up and down, the wagon wheel of beauty's cruelty and wisdom's chatter, out of that raving tide is drawn betwixt deformity of body and of mind. Aherne, were not our beds far off, I'd ring the bell, stand under the rough roof timbers of the hall beside the castle door, where all is stark austerity, a place set out for wisdom that he will never find. I'd play a part He would never know me after all these years but take me for some drunken countryman. I'd stand and mutter there until he caught, hunchback and sane and fool, and that they came under the 3 last crescents of the moon, and then I'd stagger out. He'd crack his wits day after day, yet never find the meaning. And then he laughed to think that what seemed hard should be so simple. A bat rose from the hazels and circled round him with its squeaky cry. The light in the tower window was put out.